Hi everyone. So, this is the story about how my family came to be. So, in March of 1998, I just landed in Grand Prairie. My dad came and picked me up from the airport, and I told him that I was pregnant, and he was so happy. And he told me that my sister is pregnant as well, and that all my brothers and sisters are at the bar celebrating. So, my dad drops me off at the bar, and I go down, and it was called the Underground. It was under the Park Hotel. So I go down to the Underground, and I find my family. And my siblings are all happy to see me. And I tell them that I'm pregnant, and they are excited. Now they're like, now we gotta get drunk. We gotta celebrate because these two women are pregnant. Our sisters are pregnant at the same time, and they can't drink, so we have to drink for them. And then we all went on the dance floor. And I'm facing the door. And the door, all you see is stairs going up. So I'm dancing with my sisters. All four of us are on the dance floor. And I look up and I see these feet come down. And then the legs. And then I see the feet of somebody else walking like this together. And I know that that is my husband. And I'm standing there and I'm staring, and my sister Amanda, she says, "What?" I said, "That's Brian." She looks over and she goes, "How could you tell that's Brian?" She's like, "Their feet." I said, "That's Brian." She goes, "Well, he's with a girl." She's like, "He's with a girl and you're here pregnant." I said, "He just lost his mom and he lost himself." She's like, "That's no excuse." I wasn't given an excuse. I was giving a reason why I was not angry. Because I'm pregnant. I'm the happiest I could ever be. God gifted me a baby. Sure enough, they come down, and I'm in front of the doorway now. And it was Brian. And he is holding this girl's hand. And he looks at me, and he bursts into tears. And he comes over and he gives me this big hug. And I hold him, and I can feel his pain. And then he steps back, and this girl is looking at him. "Oh, I'd like you to meet my wife." She's like, "Your wife?" He says, "Yeah, my wife." He goes and grabs my belly, and he says, "This is my baby." And she's like, "I don't know what kind of a sick joke this is, but I'm not into this." And she turned away and she says, "And by the way, nothing happened." I said, "I know. I know." Because had something happened and I would have confronted him, he would have blew up. Because I'm confronting him with truth. And he would have been trying to hide lies, like the other times that he was lured into sleeping with somebody to break us up, to separate our family. And me and Brian went off and we went and talked. And I told him that he has to forgive himself for leaving me. And I understand where he was emotionally and mentally and spiritually. And now he is drowning himself in his sorrows, and he is off balance completely. And Brian and I, we didn't stay with my dad. Brian didn't have a home. I didn't have a home. And we went and stayed in a shelter. And people that are in shelters, they are very prone to holding on to things, like holding on to that pain, holding on to those bad things that got them into that shelter. So they hold on to a lot of spirits. So there's lots of spiritual activity. And for me, I'm very conscious of feeling spirit. And that place felt very, very dark and lonely. This shelter had a family side. And as soon as we got into this family side, I felt good, because now I don't have energies commingling with other people's energies. Like my spirit, I'm very, very happy. I am the happiest that I could ever be in my life. So my spirit light is really bright. And my husband's, even though he was very distraught, I helped brighten up his spirit, because I told him not to, just to let it all go. Don't hold on to all that shame, that guilt. He did what he did, learn from it, and never do it again. Right? Doesn't change the way that I feel about him or about us and our family. And now I don't have to, my spirit doesn't have to fight against all these other spirits out there that are in this shelter. So I'm very happy. And then Brian got a job at Dobson, and he's a welder's helper. And we're saving money to get our own place. And then I get this phone call, or my dad comes and to the shelter, and I got a phone call at his place. So I go over, and my cousin Leroy had committed suicide. My cousin Leroy was my favorite cousin out of the Kidder family. He was my favorite cousin because we were both born before our parents had met. Like my mother, we were from different fathers, and we were raised as babies by Victor Kidder and Alvin Kidder. And we didn't have anything to do with our dads, so we understood each other this way. And he was always there for me. And I felt guilty. And I was angry with him. I was like, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you call me? I could have talked you out of this. Like I did when you were a teenager. You wanted to commit suicide. See, my cousin's wife had broke his heart. And he committed suicide. And then when I told my husband's work friend They were over at my dad's in a half an hour, and we were on the road because they weren't going to start the funeral until I got there, because my auntie knew that I was Leroy's best friend, and that Leroy mattered a great deal to me. So I have sadness now. And then I get there and I'm asking my mom, why didn't he reach out to us? Why didn't he look for me? She said, Betsy, he came to the house looking for you. And Dad and him spoke. And then I asked my dad, why didn't you get a hold of me? I said, he came to the house looking for me. He said, no, he came to the house looking for me. I said, no, he didn't. He didn't go looking for you. He came looking for me because he knew that I would talk to him like I had in the past. It's like this was the third time that he needed somebody. The first time was when he was 14. Second time was when he was 16. And you should have gave him my number. I didn't know it. And I became angry with my dad. So now I have these bad feelings within myself. And these curses that have been working for the last couple of months since I arrived back to Surrey. And I lost my home and I lost my finances. And those thoughts started trying to come to me. And then my husband lost his mom, and then he lost his light. And they're trying to pull my family apart. Now they have attached to me because I am holding on to this hurt and this anger towards my dad. So we go back home to the shelter. And then Brian starts wanting to watch pornos. You see, Brian is completely surrounded by these things now. And these indecent spirits that like that stuff are starting to get to him. And now I have these spirits talking to me and telling me that I'm too fat for him. And that's the reason why he wants to watch these things. And we ended up having this huge fight because of those pornos. Because of the way that we were both feeling. Because of what was being whispered to us. And Brian, he physically assaulted me. And that hurt him even more. And I threatened to charge him. And I told him to leave. Because grabbing a hold of me and pushing me is one thing. Grabbing a metal chair, a folded metal chair, and trying to slam it. And seeing his eyes change from light green, like he's got hazel eyes, to dark brown as he's swinging this thing towards my stomach. I held myself and I braced my belly. And I kicked him out. And I was terrified of him. But not him. What had gone into him.